There are moments in football when silence says more than noise, and then there are moments when 3 simple words say more than an entire press conference. That is exactly what happened when Erling Haaland, the towering Norwegian striker who has spent the last few years rewriting the record books, sat down, opened his phone, and typed out a message so short that nobody expected it to matter. 3 words. That is all it took. Within minutes, timelines exploded, journalists scrambled, teammates reacted, and fans across the world tried to piece together what was actually going on. In this video, we are going to break down exactly what happened, why it happened, and what it means for Haaland going forward. So stick around, because this story only gets more interesting the deeper you go. To understand why 3 words could cause this much chaos, you have to understand where Haaland was mentally and professionally in the days leading up to the post. He had just come off a stretch of matches that tested every ounce of his patience, dealing with tactical adjustments, intense media scrutiny, and the kind of relentless pressure that comes with being one of the most watched athletes on the planet. Behind the scenes, there had been whispers about his frustration, quiet murmurs from insiders suggesting that something was brewing beneath that usually calm and composed exterior. Haaland has never been the type to seek attention through social media. His posts are typically simple, often just a photo from training, or a quick celebration after a big win, nothing more. That is precisely why this moment stood out so sharply. When someone who almost never speaks suddenly says something, people listen twice as hard. The message appeared late in the evening, at a time when most people were not even paying attention to their phones, which made the discovery even more electric when it finally spread. No elaborate caption, no photo, no video, just 3 plain words sitting there on the screen for the world to interpret however it wanted. And that ambiguity was the spark. Because Haaland did not explain himself, everyone became a detective. Was it directed at a teammate? Was it a message to a rival club? Was it about his contract situation? Was it simply a private joke that got misread by an audience desperate for meaning? The internet does not like uncertainty, so within moments, theories started stacking on top of each other like dominoes, each one wilder than the last, each one pulling in more attention, more shares, more comments, and more confusion. Before we keep going, if you are enjoying this breakdown, take a second to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on, because stories like this one tend to develop fast, and you do not want to miss the moment new details come out. It genuinely helps the channel more than you might think, and it costs nothing but a click. Alright, back to the story. What happened next is where things really took off. Fan accounts noticed the post almost immediately and began screenshotting it before anyone could second guess whether it was real. Within the first hour, it had been reposted across nearly every major football commentary account, each one adding their own spin, their own theory, their own dramatic music if it was a video breakdown. Football is a sport built on emotion, and nothing generates emotion quite like uncertainty involving one of its biggest stars. Pundits who cover the sport for a living started weighing in during live broadcasts, some treating it as a light-hearted moment of banter, others speculating that something much bigger was unfolding behind closed doors. Former players took to their own platforms to offer their take, with a few suggesting they had heard something through their own contacts in the football world, though none of them could confirm exactly what that something was. As the post continued to circulate, attention naturally shifted toward how Haaland's teammates and coaching staff were responding. Some players reacted publicly with playful comments, seemingly treating the whole situation as an inside joke that outsiders were not meant to fully understand. Others stayed completely silent, which of course only added more fuel to the speculation, because silence, in moments like this, often gets read as confirmation, even when it might mean absolutely nothing. Reporters who cover the club on a daily basis reached out for comment, and the responses they received were carefully worded, polished in that particular way that suggests either there truly is nothing to see here, or there is something significant that nobody is ready to reveal just yet. That kind of careful, measured response from people close to the situation only made fans more convinced that this was not just a random moment of boredom from Haaland, but something with real weight behind it. It is worth pausing here to talk about why something this small managed to generate something this large. In the modern football landscape, athletes are more accessible than ever before, yet somehow more guarded with what they choose to reveal. Haaland, in particular, has built a reputation as someone who lets his performances speak for him, someone who rarely engages in the kind of back-and-forth banter that defines so much of footballing culture online. So when a player like that breaks pattern, even briefly, even with something as small as 3 words, it feels significant simply because it is out of character. Fans have spent years studying his habits, his interviews, his body language after matches, and this post did not fit the mold they had built in their minds. That disruption of expectation is exactly what turns a small moment into a viral one, because our brains are wired to pay closer attention when something breaks the pattern we were expecting. By the next morning, the story had transformed from a niche fan discussion into a full-blown media topic. Major football outlets picked it up, publishing articles trying to decode the meaning behind the message, interviewing former players for their opinions, and running polls asking fans what they believed was really going on. Podcasts dedicated entire segments to breaking down every possible interpretation, comparing it to previous instances in football history, where a player's seemingly small public gesture ended up being the first sign of something much larger, whether that be a transfer, a contract dispute, or simply a personal statement about ambition and motivation. The story had officially escaped the world of football fandom and entered mainstream sports conversation, proving once again that in this era, the biggest stories do not always come from what happens on the pitch, but from what happens in the quiet moments before and after the whistle blows. Stepping back from all the noise and speculation, this moment reveals something important about who Haaland is as both a player and a public figure. He operates differently than most modern athletes. He does not chase engagement, he does not build a narrative through constant online presence, and because of that restraint, every single word he does choose to share carries an outsized weight. In a world where athletes often overshare to stay relevant, Haaland's silence has become its own kind of statement, and this brief departure from that silence only proved how powerful restraint can be. Whether the 3 words meant something deeply personal, something professional, or simply reflected a passing thought that got blown far out of proportion, the reaction itself tells us everything we need to know about his standing in the sport right now. People do not react this strongly to players who do not matter, and right now, Haaland matters more than almost anyone else wearing a football boot. So, where does this leave us? As of now, the full story behind those 3 words remains something fans continue to debate, dissect, and discuss across every corner of the internet. Maybe more details will surface in the coming days. Maybe Haaland will address it directly in his next interview. Or maybe it will simply fade away, absorbed into the endless stream of football content that moves on to the next big moment within a week. Either way, this small, almost throwaway post managed to capture the attention of an entire sport for a stretch of time, and that alone says something about the kind of magnetic presence Haaland has built around himself. If you enjoyed breaking this down with us, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next update the moment new information comes out, because knowing Haaland, this almost certainly will not be the last time 3 simple words send the football world into a frenzy.